This Fed Gov Today program is sponsored by Snowflake and Carasoft. On this edition of Fed Gov Today with Francis Rose, the next phase of AI at the CIA. The Army hops over one of its toughest software barriers and the missing link in the digital transformation chain. Former Federal CIO Clare Martorana later on Fed Gov Today with Francis Rose. First, though, the Central Intelligence Agency is moving out of the planning phase toward deployment of artificial intelligence. It's making AI models available all over its organization. Linnea Jones is the Chief Information Officer at CIA. Linnea, welcome. Thanks for joining me. What do you mean by all over the organization?
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, I want to say thank you, Francis. It's so great to see you again. I'm a friend of the community, and so we really appreciate it. And so you asked about where are we at with AI. Well, a lot of times when people think of AI, especially at the CIA, everyone defaults to the analyst and mission, but we're really using it at all aspects of the agency, from our financial organization, especially in cybersecurity. That's a huge place. Our human resources aspects, that's another place. And so we have a ton of different areas that we're looking to use that to help really improve processes, functions, but really also speed up kind of the rudimentary tasks that we do and actually reap more benefits to focus on some of the harder challenges we have at the agency.
We're seeing all flavors of tools that agencies are using. Yeah. Some are off the shelf, some are proprietary, some are customized for individual organizations. Well, how are you approaching that at CIA?
Sure, absolutely. So for us, it's really a blend of both. And the reason why I say it that way is because we're very fortunate to have a lot of vendor partnerships with cloud service providers and AI companies that have graciously shared their models with us that we use. But we also have a ton of data, right? The mission of the intelligence community, and specifically CIA, is data is really what makes the mission possible. And so with that being the case, we look at blending our data, which could be proprietary from collection or intelligence related activities, and look at that, in some cases augmenting the intelligence that we provide by using the models with the external clients as well. And so that's a blend of both. And so I would say the idea of us having one or all, we really want to have both because it kind of opens the aperture as well for the use cases. And the other piece is with the intelligence data, we have intelligence overlays regarding how we collect or what type of collection. So we want to ensure that that's in place as well.
Is the type of data that the tool will use the primary determinant of whether you use something proprietary or something off the shelf, or are there other factors too?
It could be that. It could be the type of data. It could be the means or method that the data was obtained by. It could be in some cases, how frequent the data is collected, right? CIA has a huge open source mission, and so OSINT. And so very fortunate that at CIA, we use a lot of different firms of intelligence. And so, whether it be related to cyber intelligence activities, whether it be to open source activities, even signals activities, it really just depends. For us, it'll always be a blend. We're very fortunate to have brilliant minds and brilliant developers that can create some custom tools, but when possible, we are looking at using commercial off-the-shelf products because that will actually help us to streamline the process and actually make the intelligence available much quicker, and that's reinventing the wheel.
Yeah, and the speed, I imagine, is as important to you and your colleagues in the intelligence community as it is in the national defense sector.
Absolutely. We do partner with the national defense community as well, but speed could be the difference of, a million things. And so I say that with us, we're looking at trying to bring the intelligence to those that may need it as quick as possible, as well as ensuring that we're meeting all the policies and all of the mechanisms to ensure that's possible. But we want to take advantage of the time and make sure that we're streamlining that to get it to the customers as quickly as possible. Always.
Well, last time you were on the show, you talked about the cloud infrastructure that you've built and your colleagues have built at CIA, and some of those colleagues have been on this program in the interim talking about the cloud work that you've done. How did that underpin, how did that lay the foundation for the work that you're doing AI-wise, and what else did you have to build infrastructure-wise to be ready to make this move?
Absolutely. So really, without the cloud foundation, we wouldn't be able to make the AI models possible. We're very fortunate to now be on this newer cloud journey for 5 years, if you can believe, commercial cloud enterprise. I know, right? Awarding in the fall timeframe, right around in COVID. And so with that being our foundation, really in order for AI to be available to the customers and really to use it for all the tools and applications, we really need to have that compute and that storage in place and that foundational, as well as the network capabilities, right? And so the closest the data is to the customer, the more that they can readily use it, harness that data to tie into applications or just a multitude of uses. But we started out, and so the last, you could say, 3 to 4 years was really building that foundation, working with industry, our cloud service providers to make the foundation available, and then we move up the stack, of course, software as a service, and looking at making those models available. And so very fortunate to be where we are today. The models are available. We have a ton of use cases and partnerships, both internal and external, but we have been doing well with that, and so very pleased.
It is striking that it was 5 years ago that you let that cloud contract, because I remember when that came out, when you announced that, folks, even in civilian agencies said, oh my gosh, CIA is going to the cloud? And you gave a lot of organizations cover and actually called to account some agencies that were a little bit slow on the civilian side who had that reaction. Well, if CIA is going to do it, we can, or, well, now we really have to. How do you think that's driven the discussion, not just across the IC, but across the government as a whole?
I think I'm very proud to say I feel that we at CIA have been very humbly able to lead that way, lead that charge. Just as you were saying those statements about people being surprised, I do enjoy being at CIA, and we love to, as people say, shake up the apple cart a little bit. And so we looked at it as we wanted to make the data, the information, the intelligence as quickly and rapidly available to our customers. We're looking at the asymmetric nature of threats. We have multitude of threats and requirements that people want to use, and that's just something that we can't do by ourselves. So us looking towards the cloud is how can we augment our capabilities, how can we form partnerships in order to leverage what's already been done in industry, bring that best in breed technology to the agency, and then continue to flourish from that. And it's been found, it's been amazing, not just across the IC, but even the defense community. And so frequently we do meet with other agencies or elements across a multitude, as well as other companies, to learn from them, but as well as sharing our journey as to how we started and how we got to where we are today.
I mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, Linnea, that you're moving now out of the planning phase of using AI tools and into the implementation phase. How did you know you were ready? What were the markers by which you determined, okay, we can really open this up to a lot more users across the organization with confidence?
Absolutely. There's a famous quote that says the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago,
that's
right? And so with us, every
second
journey,
best days today.
Exactly, right? And so that's how we felt. It was every journey starts with a single step. And so for us, we wanted to ensure that we had the foundation available. We did start with smaller use cases, low-lying fruit. In some cases, people might take the hardest problem they have, and that just wasn't, for us, we wanted to start with something small and then build out from there. And so our cases that we used to start out was really partnering with industry partners and tested use cases, such in the cybersecurity realm. There's a ton of agentic or generative AI to look for threat and monitoring or tipping and a various amount of things. And so that's something that's always rapidly changing in the cybersecurity realm. And so we wanted to do that. And then, also during the COVID timeframe, you had the human resources and the digital connectedness and the virtual aspects. And so we saw, some potential use cases there. And so I would say we just built upon it, but really even internally, we work closely with our directorates and our organizations and really want to hear them from a tech perspective and then see what's in the realm of possible and then work together. And so we just take it one step a day, one day at a time.
Linnea, it's great to have you back on the show. Thanks for joining me again today.
Thank you so much, Francis.
You can read more about the CIA's AI and cloud work on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. FedGov Today with Francis Rose continues in a moment. Because at this conference and anywhere else you get a couple of military people together, the word you hear more than anything else just about is speed. They understand the importance of speed, of innovation, of delivery on mission capability and so on.
Oh yeah, especially with like the we got all these joint efforts. And so it's all about not only speed to implementation, but now we're talking about speed to get the information to the right person at the speed of relevance.
You can discover how artificial intelligence is reshaping government operations on AI and automation in depth. Kind of the latest evolution in that curve. Maybe there are still people who are still catching up as far as rank and file agency people who are being introduced to these tools from a task solution perspective. Is that a fair read on my part?
Absolutely, and sometimes with technology, the learning curve can be difficult. But I believe with AI, especially with the beauty of the tools that we're also providing is that they cater to different skills and different tasks and responsibilities and backgrounds, because you can have those low-code or no-code solutions that we provide, but also solutions that are code first, where you need to know some programming and languages. So again, I have to repeat here that the entry to the AI, the threshold has never been lower. And that is because there's so many tools right now that you can use to enhance what you're doing.
Welcome back. Linnea Jones mentioned the proprietary and off-the-shelf AI tools the CIA is using. Many other agencies say they're looking for opportunities to adopt off-the-shelf technologies too. Steve Coles is president for Federal at Snowflake. Steve, welcome. It's great to talk to you again. What do you think is driving that hunger, that desire for commercial technologies at agencies today?
Well, thank you for having me, Francis. Good to be with you. I really think that we're at an inflection point. Agencies can't afford to stand up systems over years, 2 to 3 years, and they can't afford to start from the beginning. And I really think there is, when you look at modern SaaS technology, there's a capability to be able to stand that up immediately and offer them updates over the air, i.e., a chat GPT type model, a 4.1 type model, a Claude model, a Meta model, and to be able to get updates like that without going through a contracting process would be like the F-35 program getting an AI update without going through all the contracting theater, right? I mean, it's not possible without a modern SaaS type platform.
What have the agencies done well to get them to that phase, and how can they leverage that inflection point that you just described?
I think what they've done well is begin to bring in commercial technologies or SaaS technologies that are available in the commercial marketplace today that, say the commercial companies have already vetted that they're using widely, and they're saying, let's go and adopt that rather than building it ourselves. And if they build it themselves, it takes years versus getting it available in months or fewer. What
are some of the roadblocks that you've seen agencies run up against? How have you seen them move those roadblocks and able to make in order to make progress?
Well, I think one of the big roadblocks is the ATO process, the authority to operate process. And I don't know, it usually take months or years for someone to get through an authority to operate process. But if I was to ask you, Francis, do you think the Chinese or the Russians are using the ATO process or waiting for the ATO process to ultimately put their systems online?
I'm confident that they're not. I don't know for a fact, but I'm pretty sure no.
I agree with you. So I think that, having a modern SaaS platform that's ATO'd one time as opposed to ATOing systems thousands of times allows you to ATO it and then bring innovation in at will.
How much of this is a culture change? How much of it is an organization saying we're not going to do things the way that we always have, commission some piece of software that's going to take 1,000 years and who knows how much money to get in? And how well do you think the agencies have done at getting past that?
I think it's a big culture shift, right? Because forever they have built their own systems with their own system integrators, with their people that they have their own relationships with. And I think that is a massive culture shift to adopt technologies that are also readily available commercially. But there's advantages to that. For example, we've seen play out in the media, very large defense contractors owning the data for the DoD. I mean, the mission shouldn't have to come to a contractor to get access to their own information. They need access to that. In modern SaaS type systems, full stop, the data is available to them. They own the data. There's never a question about that. So I think there's a bridge there for them to more easily want to come in that direction.
I want to say it was 2014 or 15 that a civilian agency that I won't name, you can go look it up if you want to, found that they were in that exact spot. And that was the first example of an agency having to go buy its own data from a vendor under the terms of a contract that the agency had signed and gone along with the terms of. What's the awareness? What is the contracting processes, all of that have changed, and what do you think might still need to have to change in order for agencies to be confident that they own the data that they're creating and they're using through a vendor's platform?
Agreed. I think shifting to a modern SaaS platform is the route to go from a data perspective, because those terms are already set. The mission data is owned by the mission owner. We're not trying to have a business model that would actually say, we're going to own your data and you have to come to us to pay for it. That's just, I think that's the old way of doing business. I think people need to think differently about how they're doing business if they're going to contract that way.
So is this just a new way of doing business, a new way of thinking, or are there new processes, new governance, new models that are required here in your view?
I don't think there's new models. I think that the commercial model they have worn out all the kinks from a SaaS perspective and a software as a service, and they know they want to own their own data. They're not going to stand up for a contractor trying to actually own their data. So I think the models commercially have made them ready to be available to come into the government. So I think that's been the good news is they're ready to be adopted.
How much of this is dependent on the technology shops then? How much of it's dependent on the procurement shops, financial management shops, and so on?
I think that it's really the technology shops to decide what technology they want. And I think from an innovation perspective, these modern SaaS platforms are able to bring in the most innovative technology, like CIA was talking about, but bring in at will without a contracting modification, without the contracting theater, without going through an RFI or an RFP or all the extended, the extended time period of going through a contracting process.
Steve, it's great to have you on the show. Thanks for joining me.
Great to be here. Thank you. It's a pleasure, Francis.
You can read more at fedgovtoday.com. Up next, the missing link in the digital transformation chain. FedGov Today with Francis Rose will continue in a moment.
Innovation doesn't wait, and neither do we. At Maximus, we solve problems, streamlining operations, delivering solutions at speed and scale that drive measurable results. From strategy to execution, we simplify complexity, building trust through expertise and innovative technology. Every service, every time. Efficient government delivered. We don't follow innovation, we drive it. Maximus.
Shane talked about the Model Context Protocol. Google launched A2A. There's new protocols and standards coming online every single day. There's new companies that are working at what we call the agentic horizontal layer, which is more about agent orchestration. And then there's companies that are working on vertical solutions, solving one specific area within sort of multi-agent solutions, whether it's software engineering or like IT operations. And so when I talk to an individual and they have that degree of sophistication around understanding that it's kind of impossible to keep up with this, that's when I know, oh, we're like in the same boat together. Yeah. We're both trying to solve the same problem. So
Shane, final thought about that?
Yeah, and I think for customers that come forward and say, this is the problem I'm trying to solve. This is how I need AI to help me. Okay, and they have a very clearly defined problem that also links to a criteria of success. And I think that really helps differentiate them from customers that will come forward and basically say, I need AI. Not just any AI, I need great AI.
Welcome back. Federal IT leaders tell me their AI applications are becoming part of a stack that includes cloud infrastructure, effective data management, and cyber protections. Agencies that say they're realizing the potential of AI cite the digital improvements they've made in the last decade as one of the big reasons they can build that stack. At DE25 recently, former Federal Chief Information Officer Clare Martorana tells me there's a missing link in agency efforts.
Data is the connective tissue of government, and it is absolutely critical. Some of your other panelists were talking about, the semantic layer, metadata. They're just, we have struggled in government. We have silos of excellence where people are doing extraordinary work, and the private sector learns from the government, which is kind of how I've grown up, is the government doing exceptional work and the American public benefiting from it. But I think where we have really struggled in the cloud first to cloud smart to AI disrupting everything, we don't have a relationship, I think, that is functional with our members of Congress to be able to build the sustainable long-term funding strategies that are needed to continue. The pace of change is so great, we have to actually work together as an ecosystem to make sure that we have the talent in place, that we have the contracting vehicles in place, and that we have the strategies in place to be able to meet today's challenges, but also, as Sunny mentioned in a previous segment, the future, quantum future, which is coming in a moment's time.
Probably more rapidly than people think right now.
Well, DeepSeek surprised us all a couple months ago, and very likely we are going to have another big surprise. I hope that that is an American surprise, and I hope that we continue to fund the research that is needed for us to be able to capture the flag in the quantum world. But I think that we are just uneven across our different sectors of government, and we are seeing the risk of that, both in a cybersecurity posture, but also in an operating posture.
You mentioned the long-term funding strategy, and one of what I think one of your most important jobs was as Federal CIO was to be on the Technology Modernization Fund board. And I know in preparing for this that there were a large number of the TMF projects that were approved that got money that revolved around data management, data governance, and so on. No accident, I suppose, given what your view is on how important data is to the operations of the agencies, and then that disconnect that you just described in the long-term funding.
Yep, computers are just bricks without data. Right? So it doesn't, everything revolves around data strategy, risk management, governance. It is all about the data. And it's all also about the customer using the data. So, and many of your panelists have spoken about that, whether it's designing, I have a real bias for customer experience and digital experience, and making sure that in the development of our systems that we're thinking about the customer, and the customer can be a federal employee who is attempting to, do something at the border, whether they are working at HHS. So making sure that we understand who the customer is, both the American public and our internal federal resources, and then also what problem we are trying to solve with the data. And I think that we just have such a unique opportunity at this moment in time, especially with AI, to learn from each other. So the other thing that I think is really important is the convening of these agencies and the sharing of knowledge, playbooks, right? GSA had the centers of excellence where you were really able to learn inside government in a way that you weren't embarrassed, right? If you are a member of a team, a mission partner, could be a CIO who has not had the sustained funding to be able to do some of these large projects, and then be able to learn from your partner who's farther ahead. And it's really the CIO Council, I think, is one of those incredible organizations where the camaraderie and the safe space that is created in that environment to share is really a critical part of how we operate in government.
You mentioned the centers of excellence and the kind of the repositories at agencies across government where organizations that do something well do that and either share that service or share that knowledge with everybody else. And the other organization that strikes me that the first Trump team created that you perpetuated and enhanced was the Quality Service Management Organizations, the QSMOs. It would have been tempting, I suppose, for someone in the White House to say, well, that was theirs, and so we'll do it different, or we'll start our own, or we'll call it something else, or whatever. And I note that both of those, you didn't. you got out of the way and said, these are working well and we should let them keep working well.
It's absolutely critical. It is, I was fortunate. I joined in the Obama administration. I served in the first Trump administration and in the Biden administration. And technology is purple, right? Technology is not red or blue. Technology is purple. We just have a mission to serve the American public and to be the best stewards of the taxpayer dollar. So rebranding an effort that worked in a previous administration for vanity's sake is idiotic. And I learned a lot from my predecessors as federal CIOs. Suzette Kent tweaked, went to Cloud Smart from Cloud First, but that was a really elegant evolution of the strategy. It wasn't a rebranding for rebranding's sake. So I got to learn from really smart people that sat in the seat prior to me, and we just wanted to focus on the mission and the problems we were trying to solve.
You can watch all the conversations from DE25, including the discussion with the CBP CIO, Sunny Bagwalia, that Claire referenced, on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. FedGov Today continues in a moment. What's the trend line that you see in the OSINT community over the next year to maybe even 5 years out? I know it's hard to predict, but what do you see as the things that continue to be important to people or maybe aren't on their radar screens now but should be?
Yeah, thanks for having me today. I think there's a lot of nuances to that question based off of the different diverse mission sets of how OSINT is being applied to government, whether that be, in law enforcement, the military, the intelligence. But even within the federal civilian government, there's a lot of ways that OSINT is now being used. Also, the trends aren't going to be, completely even, because within OSINT, there's sort of two practice areas. There's publicly available information and there's commercially available information. Some of the trends that we've seen today, is very sort of artificial intelligence and machine learning, heavy.
Seeing agencies thinking about artificial intelligence as it applies to their cyber operations. How are they combining those two concepts together?
That is a hot topic nowadays, Francis, for sure. To me, AI is more like a co-pilot, not an autopilot. AI can ingest large amounts of data, spot patterns, explain what's going on, maybe speed up responses, but it does come down to people having those insights and making those smart decisions. So I think agencies are pretty bought into the fact that AI is supporting their cybersecurity efforts rather than taking over.
Welcome back. In today's event spotlight, the technologies shaping the future of defense, intelligence, and homeland security are the focus of an event from AFCEA International. TechNet Emergence 2025 is coming July 15th and 16th at the Hyatt Regency in Reston, Virginia. You'll see leaders from government, industry, and academia and learn how cutting-edge tech will shape the national defense and national security landscape. You can see the speaker list and register at fedgovtoday.com/events. FedGov Today TV returns next Sunday morning. I'm Francis Rose. I'll see you then. Thanks for watching and have a great week.